All right. Well, and now you're here with us, sharing some cool stories. Let's take it back a little bit and talk about who first got you into surfing and kind of how it all started.
Okay, so I started surfing when I was 4 years old. My dad, Neil, was a surfer. My older brother, Jason, was a surfer. And obviously, I just fell in love with surfing. Of course, I was born to be a surfer with the last name Beachley, right? And so it was just something, it was a place when I remember being immersed in the ocean as a toddler before I could even walk. I remember feeling the sand between my toes, the sun on my skin, the salt water on my face, and I just instantly felt like I belonged there. It was a place where I felt so comfortable, so nurtured, and so relaxed, and that ocean still has that feeling and that sense for me today. So I started surfing as a 4-year-old down at Manly Beach. Anyone in here familiar with Manly Beach? Anyone's, yeah? Yeah. How many Aussies in the room, by the way? Yeah, that cool. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Yeah. Yeah. That's a horrible catch cry, but it works. Anyway, so I started surfing at Manly Beach, and it is the most appropriately named beach in the world, by the way. It's called Manly, and it is very manly. I was the only girl surfing there from the early 70s. Pam Burridge came from Manly as well, so she was kind of like my mentor and idol as growing up. And when I started surfing in the southern corner, I started on a foamy, as most kids do. And I started on a foamy I stayed on it for about 9 years, and I didn't progress to a fiberglass surfboard until I was about 14 years old. And then I had to step outside of my comfort zone down there at the southern corner of Manly Beach and head up towards the north end of the beach. And it was the north end of the beach of Manly. It's called North Stone. And that's the place where I found I encountered the most amount of hostility and threats and intimidation, because the southern corner is kind of kiddies' corner. It's where everyone grows up surfing. It's where we graduate, and then we move up towards the further northern end of the beach, because I learned that you're only as successful as the people you're surrounded by. And when I found myself in a comfort zone, I was no longer being challenged, and therefore I was no longer really growing. And so when I stepped out of my comfort zone and started surfing up at North Stone, man, the amount of guys that would try and kick me out of the water, you're a girl, get out of the water, and go and sit on the beach and watch my towel and my keys, and you can't surf, you're a girl, and every time I encountered that, I remember sometimes looking back at them and going, well, why aren't I allowed out here just because I'm a girl? And then when I realized that these guys that were threatening me and challenging me were like my dream thieves, they were life vampires. They didn't want to see me succeed. So knowing that I wanted to be a world champion gave me the confidence to stand up against them. So whenever a guy came up and said, you're a girl, get out of the water, I'd look at them and go, what are you doing out here then? It gave me the confidence to stand up and fight. But honestly, there were times when it was all too hostile. There were times when I felt so threatened that I started crying, and I did go in and I did shy away from it. But for every time that I did that, there was always someone around that would say, hey, you know what? My nickname was Gidget growing up. And so they'd say, Gidget, come back out and come surf with me, because I think you're a really good surfer and you want to be world champion. And so to be world champion, you're going to have to keep surfing against the best surfers in the best waves. So come out and surf with me, and I'll support you and nurture you and develop your talent. And so I realized that you can hang out with dream thieves, or you can hang out with people who are supportive and encouraging. And it was those guys that actually elevated me to become a better surfer, and also be honest with my talent and my ability, because it wasn't the best. I did teach myself how to surf, and I taught myself to surf very poorly.
And when was it? At about what age, or maybe what happened? There was a turning point where you maybe had a realization that this could be more than a hobby. I want to make this more than a hobby. I'm going to pursue this as a career. When was that time?
It certainly wasn't after my first event, because the first event I ever competed in, I came dead last. and that was quite discouraging. But it also made me want to work harder, because I wanted to prove that I could be a good surfer. To give you a bit of a background, I was adopted at birth, and my dad decided to sit me down when I was 8 years old to tell me I was adopted. And that essentially is what had the most profound impact on my life, because the mother who adopted me actually died when I was 6 years old. And when you're 6 years old, you don't truly understand the concept of forever. You don't really understand what you're missing out on. You just know you're losing someone very influential and very nurturing. When I was 8 years old and my dad said I was adopted, it had the most amazing, profound impact, because at that moment in time I felt like I had just been abandoned. My own feeling associated with adoption, and for anyone in this room that's ever experienced it or has people in their family that are adopted, from my own situation, I felt like I'd been abandoned, I'd been rejected, I felt like I was undeserving of love, I felt like I was worthless. And because I thought, well, if my own mother gave me away, then if I'm not deserving of her love, whose love am I deserving of? And that is essentially what drove me to become a world champion, because as an 8-year-old, I decided, I know if I become a world champion, everyone will love me. And we know it doesn't work like that, but that's the choice that I made. And it was an unconscious driving force. When I surfed in my first event as a 14-year-old, I came dead last, but that driving force, that inner desire, that absolute necessity to prove that I'm deserving, and the only way that I feel that I can prove that is by becoming a world champion, is what allowed me and what encouraged me to pursue through all these challenges and these setbacks and these obstacles. When I was 15, I surfed in my first Pro Tour event and I came dead last again. But I was really encouraged by that situation. For some reason, I was really attracted to it, and I loved competing. I loved challenging myself. Surfing in Manly every day was a challenge in itself. Then going on the Pro Tour, I decided after I completed high school that I was then going to pursue a career as a professional surfer. And of course, my goals were incremental. It's not like I jumped on tour and expected myself to become world champion straight away.